Star Trek, the Kobayashi Maru, Chapter 7, Halley. Well, he was right, Kirk reflected unhappily. It wasn't funny. He stared at the airlock door and willed Scott to hurry. "Your great-grandfather must have been a very exceptional man," McCoy finally said softly. "I would have been honored to meet him." Something reminiscent of a smile tugged at Sulu's lips. "Hang in there, Doc," he confided weakly. "You might still get your chance." "Captain? Shuttle?" Scott's voice came from the front cabin. Drew everyone's attention. Chekhov slid from his seat behind Sulu and trotted into the front as the engineer reported. "I've got some bad problems out here, Captain. A dust storm or a cloud or something. I just busted my tail to repatch a conduit that's been shredded by dust and..." The channel didn't waver. Kirk heard Scott swear softly before continuing. "I'm hurrying as fast as I can," the Scotsman finished grimly. "But I think, well, it's best you not wait on me." McCoy threw Kirk a frightened glance. "What's he saying? What does that mean?" Kirk gripped the back of his seat and wished for the millionth time that he wasn't injured. "Get him back in here," he ordered tightly. "I knew it!" Chekhov hovered in the doorway, looking pale and shaken. "I should be out there, not him." "Chekhov!" Kirk snapped. The lieutenant started, flushing with embarrassment. "Get him in here. Hurry!" "With what?" McCoy insisted. "Jim, we haven't got a radio." Chekhov bolted for the suit locker by the exit. "Yes, we do," he gasped. "My God, we have 6 of them." Kirk couldn't believe none of them had thought of the helmet radios sooner. "Good, Chekhov." Good, Chekhov. "Scott!" Chekhov held the locker door open with one foot as he triggered the radio on one of the helmets with his hand. "Mr. Scott, do you read?" "Keep out of my ear, Chekhov," Scott's voice returned peevishly. "I'm trying to concentrate." "No," Chekhov countered. "Come back in. You can finish when the dust storm has passed." Scott's warm, rich laughter was thinned by stress and distance. "I canna wait that long, lad, and you know it. Now shut up and let me work." "Didn't you listen to Sulu's story?" Chekhov asked the engineer. "Heroics don't always help." "What are you prattling about?" Kirk waved for Chekhov's attention, shaking his head. "Let him be." Chekhov looked up in response to Kirk's voice, and a skirl of keening feedback tore through the front of the shuttle. McCoy swore caustically. Chekhov twisted away from the helmet in his hands. As the clamor peaked and slid away, Scott's voice pierced the resultant static with a sharp, frightened cry. Chekhov clutched the helmet to him again. "Scotty! I've got a suit breach! Ach, damn! Chekhov! Listen, lad, you've got to..." Silence engulfed the open channel. Chekhov's suit helmet clattered to the deck as the lieutenant began hastily stripping off his duty jacket. He slung the jacket onto the front row of seats and dragged a full suit from the locker without even asking permission to go. The shuttle groaned and shuddered slightly, echoed by a short, ringing report along the starboard hull, and a muted thump. An almost imperceptible sensation of movement made Kirk's head spin. He realized then that Halley's tumble had shifted. Scott had cut the cylinder free. "Where do you think you're going?" McCoy's voice brought Kirk's attention back to the room. "Chekhov, don't be an idiot." The lieutenant was half-suited, hastily checking his pressure and seals. "Stay inside, Mr. Chekhov," Kirk ordered sternly. Chekhov didn't look up from his work. "I won't leave the lock," he promised. "If I can't see him, I'll come right back." "Chekhov." But the thought of abandoning Scott turned Kirk's stomach. It could hardly do more harm to let Chekhov salve his conscience by checking. "We need someone in this shuttle besides me who isn't incapacitated." McCoy sat with Chekhov's jacket in his lap, twisting the garment into a thick rope with his nervous hands. "Chekhov, didn't you listen to Sulu's story? Sometimes you have to sacrifice. Losing both of you won't help anyone." "I know that," Chekhov shouted, slamming the locker door with one suited hand. "Do you think I didn't know that before we sent him out there?" He calmed abruptly. Kirk watched him take 4 deep, measured breaths before stooping for the fallen helmet. "But we can't afford to lose him either," Chekhov finished quietly. "That's the difference between classrooms and reality." "Go on, then." Kirk intercepted whatever McCoy had been about to say. "But be careful." Chekhov only nodded. Running his hand across the overlarge controls beside the airlock door, he inspected the seals on his helmet one last time as he waited for the door to open. Kirk was just about to question the delay when Chekhov looked up with a frown and touched the clumsy panel again. Something almost like pain crossed the lieutenant's face as he stared at the panel. Kirk's heart wrenched inside him. "What is it? What's wrong?" Chekhov shook his head slowly. "I can't access." McCoy straightened in his seat. "What?" "It won't let me in," Chekhov cried in delight. He tossed the helmet back behind him again. "The airlock! It's cycling! He's alive!" McCoy was already on his feet beside Chekhov by the time the status slide on the airlock door flashed green. Chekhov yanked off his own gloves as the doors sighed open. It was all the 2 men could do to catch Scott as the engineer stumbled through and started to fall. "Scotty, move your hand," McCoy ordered, trying to pry loose the hand Scott had clamped just above his left elbow. "Move your hand!" The hand moved, but not in response to McCoy. Scott caught at Chekhov's wrist as the lieutenant reached to break Scott's helmet stays. A 6-centimeter-long tear marred the arm of the suit, revealing Scott's blood-stained tunic beneath. McCoy thrust his hand into the opening as Scott motioned Chekhov frantically to his left shoulder. The lieutenant nodded comprehension. "Whoa, hold on a minute," the doctor protested when Chekhov shouldered him out of the way. "This man's hurt." "He also has a suit breach," Chekhov answered shortly. "There are joints in these suits that lock down to minimize air loss. They also cut off circulation." He angled his eyes up at Scott's visor and asked loudly, "Ready?" Looking thoroughly miserable, Scott merely nodded. Chekhov twisted something at the shoulder of the suit, and the seal gave way with a popping gasp. Scott threw his head back with an expression of profound pain, then slid bonelessly to the floor between Chekhov and McCoy. "Is he all right?" Kirk asked anxiously. McCoy nodded from where he was still bent over Scott's arm. "Looks that way. This is long, but clean and not too deep." He flashed Scott a rueful grin as Chekhov removed the engineer's helmet. "So much for the heroics, eh, Mr. Scott?" Scott's grin looked weak and sad against his pale face. "No more heroics, Doctor. That I can promise you." "Did you sever the nacelle?" Kirk wanted to know. Scott nodded. "I was hit at a good time, just when I was ready to go. She severed and on her way." He chuckled. "She ought to produce a bonny fireworks display when she hits home, too." "Well done, Mr. Scott," Kirk told him, smiling. "I'll get you a promotion for this." "I'd settle for a week off with pay," the engineer replied. "Done." "Sir," Sulu stirred slightly, but didn't open his eyes. "Do you really think the Enterprise will see the flash?" Kirk sighed, afraid to hazard a promise. "I don't know, Mr. Sulu," he admitted at last. "We'll just have to wait and see." White blue light bathed the shuttle nearly an hour later, blinding Kirk and Chekhov, who happened to be watching out the starboard windows for the event. "Do you think that did it?" McCoy wanted to know. "It did something," Chekhov replied cynically. "We just have to hope it hit the right asteroid." Scott stretched out to rest in a row of rear seats. When a lightning show of sparks and flashes commenced precisely a half hour following the explosion, the engineer only commented, "I'd say we hit the right asteroid," and went back to sleep. An hour of tense inactivity followed, but the Enterprise didn't appear. "Maybe Spock wants to be sure before he commits to coming this close to the planet," McCoy suggested half-heartedly. Scott was the only one moved to respond. "More likely. Not enough of the explosion's energy made it through the system's gravitational mumbo-jumbo to register as noteworthy on the Enterprise's sensors," the engineer explained sadly. "We didn't look any different than anything else that's going on out here." "Meaning?" McCoy pressed. Meaning nothing, Scott told him. Nothing at all. No one else cared to speculate further on the Enterprise's absence. Kirk's stomach embarrassed him by occasionally punctuating the silence with voluble grumbles. He soon gave up apologizing. They were all hungry and tired and depressed. He tried not to remind himself that all these conditions would end far too soon. "How are you feeling, Scotty?" he asked, just to break up the silence. Scott looked up from his impromptu couch and rubbed at his bandaged left arm. "Good enough," he said, "but I'm not going EVA again." Kirk smiled. "I don't think you'll have to." "Do you have a Kobayashi Maru story?" McCoy wheedled from the front row. "We still have time to fill." Scott pushed himself upright with a sigh, wincing when his injured arm brushed against the back of the seats. "I suppose I could take up a wee bit of time with the story." Chekhov looked honestly surprised. "You took the Kobayashi Maru?" Scott scowled at him. "No, they just let any engineer take the bridge when the captain is gone." He softened his words with a smile. "I had my share of command school. I just didn't take to it so well." "With the destructive tendencies the rest of this crew has displayed," McCoy commented, "I would think anything you did as a cadet would be exemplary." Scott shook his head and settled in for the tale. "Doctor, when it comes to destructive tendencies, these bairns have nothing on me."